Our recent cover story featured the incredible shrinking technology, looking at how miniaturization continues to recalibrate medicine. And one of the many technologies we covered was the novel miniaturized leadless pacemaker evaluated in the MICRA transcatheter pacing study. And new data on this technology is being presented here at the AHA 2015, and it's also online before print at the New England Journal of Medicine. So to talk about this, I am with Dr. Dwight Reynolds, who is an MD, professor of medicine at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center and chief of the cardiovascular section there in Oklahoma City. The miniaturized transcatheter-delivered cardiac pacing primary results trial. First off, congratulations. This is a great piece of technology. We featured it prominently in the cover story that we just did. Before we get there, let's talk some background in terms of what is it you're trying to address with this new device.
I think the biggest problems that we face with traditional pacing systems today relate to the presence of leads and to the pacemaker pocket. Also, not just the presence of leads and the risks that they have for failing, but also the obstruction of veins and limiting venous access. All that's tied up in the issue of infections as well. So we've had this vision for about 35 years, and because of the abilities to downsize battery chemistries and also the circuitry itself, it's become a possibility now. It was a non-randomized trial, a single-arm trial. We did have a historical cohort that we compared the device to. We attempted implantation in 725 patients, success in 99.2%, 719 of the patients. The primary endpoints for the trial were a safety endpoint and an efficacy endpoint. The safety endpoint was freedom from major complications at 6 months, and the efficacy endpoint was low and stable pacing thresholds at 6 months. We hit both marks beautifully, I'm happy to say. We were 96%, had a 96% freedom from major complications at the 6-month mark, and a 98.3% low and stable pacing thresholds, well above what we had projected as targets.
The precise device is what you have in your hand.
I do.
Look at that thing. That is pretty small.
It is. One of my friends just described this as looking like a .22 caliber bullet. I don't think of it that way, but it is about the size of a .22 caliber bullet. It's positioned using a catheter-deliverable technique from the femoral vein, maneuvered into the right ventricular apex or the right ventricular septal area, and it's fixated there by these very flexible nitinol tines.
Describe the patient population for whom this might be appropriate, because obviously if you're talking about an ICD or a CRT, this is not the device to have. So who would you be wanting to put something like that in?
We actually envision that eventually the technology will be there so that we can use this for pacing any site in the heart, the right ventricle, the right atrium, perhaps the left ventricle, but we're not there yet. We're there in the right ventricle. So the ideal population, and the population that constituted 65% of the implants during the clinical trial, were patients that have persistent or permanent atrial arrhythmias, atrial fibrillation, that need anti-bradycardia pacing.
And in terms of what's next?
I think looking at other applications, looking at evolution in the technology that will allow us to place the device in the atrium, place the device in the left ventricle or in one of the coronary sinuses is certainly on the table for discussion. But again, the technology's not there yet, and we think this has the opportunity to obviate the need for the leads in a big population of people.
Well, in case you want to know more about this particular technology, please see our October cover story in CardioSource World News and also CardioSource World News Interventions. This is one of those that we decided to just cross over on both publications because the whole miniaturization of what's happening in medicine is fascinating. And you will get the citation for this particular paper as soon as I say, for CardioSource World News, I'm Executive Editor Rick McGuire.